The Royal Wolf is a classic dry fly pattern, effective in just about every area. If they're going for dry flies, give this guy a try. We're going to tie one up. So grab a cup of chill as we sit back and go on the Vise with the FlyOlderGuy. And on the Vise, we're going to go with a size 14 Togata dry fly hook. These are nice hooks. They got a good curve to them. They're very sharp. I'm going to load the bobbin up with a little bit of a black unithread. It's an 8/0, and just get that secured on the bobbin and start the thread pretty far back, right by the bend. Just going to get it locked in there, trim off the tag end, and zoop. And then we're going to just advance the thread a little bit. I want to put down a base so that when we tie in the tailing fibers, they don't get all wonky. And for the tailing material, we're going to use some moose hair. This is the classic tailing material for the Royal Wolf. Grabbing, 7 or 8 hairs here. I like to have a nice full tail. I don't want it to be too sparse. So I'm trimming those off. I'm going to get some of the fluff out of the back end and the front end there. I'm going to grab our stacker and got a little something in that stacker. Get it out of there and get the hairs in there, work them in using that opening. They give you a little wider opening. It tapers down. That helps you get the more wily, longer hairs in. Get them more evenly stacked, and transfer that bunch, measuring about a shank length, and then we're going to tie it in right there, right at the start of that bend pretty much. I'm going to put a few wraps working backwards, tightening, locking in those hairs, pull up the butt ends into a nice little clump, twist it, trim them off, and then I'm going to go back and really tie down this moose hair, working my way back. Oop, caught a little hair there. Pull it back out. They are resilient, so a little bend isn't going to kill it there. Working my way back close to the start of the bend, and then going forward pretty much all the way just about to the hook eye. I'm putting down a loose thread base. This is, again, just to prevent the next material from slipping. And the next material is going to be some poly yarn, some white poly yarn. That's going to make up the wing here. So I'm going to trim off a little bit of that after stabbing the card. And pretty much where I left it, I guess you could call it 3 eye lengths back about. What I'm doing is I'm trying to leave enough room in the front to get some nice hackle in there. So got that locked in, and I'm going to give it a twist as if I'm doing a parachute post. So you see the way it twisted back up on itself, and I'm locking in on the back side and leaving that front side bare. And I'm going to transfer the thread up to the front side and start to dam up this yarn right there. So I'm really kind of building up. I'm going to give myself a little more thread, and I'm going to build up a nice dam in front of the poly yarn to help prop up this wing and keep it standing straight up. So you'll see me working the thread here, trying to get it nice. And it's pretty good right now, so I'll trim off this back end of the yarn. It's gonna, just be careful, because you definitely could trim off the wing that you've just taken some time to put on. So I'm gonna take my time here. Just gonna trim it out and make it look neat. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't need a bunch of white fuzz hanging out everywhere. So let's see. A little bit more. I could trim a little bit more off there. I'm taking my time. Now, with the poly wing, this is it. Like, at the end, I'm going to trim it, and I'm not worrying about separating it or doing any of that. So this is kind of quick. It's a quick wing. You may have tried to make these with like calf tail or calf body hair, and that stuff is crazy to work with. I think the word wily is the best word to describe that stuff. So whenever I can, I'm using a poly wing on this Royal Wolf. It's not really the classic, but definitely helps. This is the body, and that is Peacock Hurl. I'm going to get about 3 strands of Peacock Hurl, get them together and trim them even at the tips. And then we're going to tie those tips in. I like to do 2 loose wraps here and draw it back and then tighten up, and then you can lock it in place. A little bit forward and a little bit back just to make sure it's secure on there. And then I'll bring the thread up right behind the wing, and I'm going to leave the thread there. Take the Peacock Hurl and wrap it in the opposite direction. And with this, you want to be very careful not to nick it, because it is a very delicate material. It wants to break, it wants to snap. So take your time. I'm doing some overlapping wraps here, making sure I have a nice body building up towards the thorax. At the wing, I'm gonna a couple extra wraps. Look a little thick, but that'll be okay. That's gonna help with the hackle. So got it up against the wing. Take the thread and wrap it around to lock in the Hurl. Couple around the front, and get it nice and locked in, and trim it out nice and close to the wing. Looking good. Couple wraps to cover those butt ends, a couple in front, and a little bit more of a thread base to hold on to the hackle. Now for the hackle, I've got a nice size 14 in. This is like the red Grizzly. Again, this is the traditional colored hackle for this fly. I'm going to put it up on the front with a loose wrap and draw it back, and then tighten it up in the front, and a couple wraps behind the wing, tight to the wing. That's a little far back, a little tighter up to the wing, and then back up to the front. What I like to do in the front when I'm tying hackle in is give it a half hitch. So I'll grab the half hitch tool, which is the back end of my bodkin, and just put a half hitch on there. And that's going to hold that thread in place. You see, it's not going anywhere. And I can give it a little bit of length, and then I can put it on the bobbin cradle. So that'll keep it out of the way while I grab my hackle pliers and then start to turn the hackle. I want to be careful, give myself enough room for 2 or 3 nice turns with the hackle behind the wing. I'm squeezing in 3 here. And then 2 nice turns in front. You see I'm close to that wing as I come around. I get the bobbin off the cradle, switch hands, and then, you want to be careful. The hackle wants to snap, so I'll shorten up the thread very carefully, and then go around the back side 2 times to lock in the hackle on the back. I like to give it a wrap around the front, and then we'll trim this bad boy out, just like that. And then again, bringing in the half hitch, you see, you can adjust the hackle just a little bit. I don't want to push it too far back, but I want to give myself a little bit of room there right behind the eye. So I'm actually going to twist it off again, right there, and boom, can grab the whip finish tool, and we have a nice amount of room to whip finish there at the front. So we're going to give it a nice 5-turn whip finish in the front, and pop that thread off. And you see we had enough room to really get that whip finish pretty clean. I might have caught 1 hackle fiber, but it's a pretty clean whip finish up there. Grabbing the mahogany thread now, and we're going to do the body. So I like the mahogany rather than the red. It just, it's my fly. I'm giving a little bit of my own style. So I'm going to lock that in just in front of the butt end of that Peacock Hurl. And we're going to give this center body a nice little mahogany look. And that's it. It's the look of a body building up to a thorax, and that's where all the hackle is. So that's sort of my boundary there. I move it up towards the hackle and then back to the tag end, trim off the tag end. That's why I leave it there, sort of a boundary line for myself. And let me preen it, and it looks good. It really does kind of look good. That body's a nice length. So I'll grab the whip finish tool again, and we'll carefully whip finish around the hackle and the wing. 5 turns here. Pop off the thread. Come in carefully here, and I'll trim it off because I don't want to trim any other hackle fibers or anything. Looking good, looking clean. And we'll trim off the wing. I'm just proud of the hackle here, and that's where I like to trim it. And again, now I twisted it up, but it's still going to come out separated. It's going to appear separate. See? So you really don't have to worry about tying X wraps or, figure 8s or anything. Once you trim it after that twist, it should come out looking proper and ready for presentation. So that's it. That's my take on the Royal Wolf. It's got a lot of the elements from the classic style and a few of my own little innovations. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tie. Until the next one, stay fly.